Hi and welcome. Oops. First second. Sorry. Hi and welcome to my messaging security session. This is about a deep dive into EOP, the Microsoft Defender for Office 365 and other messaging security features that you might be aware of or might not be aware of. My name is Siegfried. Basically, you might hear I'm from Germany. Yeah, I'm here in the south of Germany in Bavaria. I'm an MVP for M365 apps and services and a CIO with my company Intelity. And we do a lot of consulting around messaging and Microsoft 365. Yeah, I started with Exchange back in the early days, 1997. So 4.0 was my first version with Exchange and still on Exchange. So it's one of my favorite features. Yeah, but I'm not alone here. I have some of the best industry experts and fellow MVPs with me. So there's Jeff, yeah, there's Michelle, and there's Jaap. Jeff, you want to introduce quickly yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Jeff Guillet with EXPTA Consulting. I'm a Microsoft MVP and Microsoft Certified Master for Exchange.
Jaap, what about you?
Hello, everyone. My name is Jaap Bezelius. I'm also an Exchange MVP since 2007. And just like CE, I've been working with Exchange since 97. My first production server was Exchange 5. And I'm still enjoying working with Exchange nowadays in hybrid, but still, I love the product.
Absolutely. What about you, Michelle?
I'm Michelle. I'm also an Microsoft 365 MVP from the Netherlands. I work for Rapid Circle, where there's a lot of support, supporting organizations moving to the cloud. And I'm not that long an MVP, so I'm a bit of a junior here.
But you're the funny guy, Michelle, yeah? So thanks for joining me here. And as usual, post your questions to the chat and let's start quickly. Yeah, we have an interesting topic here to discuss. Yeah, it's first, I wanted to take you off a little bit about the basics on EOP, Exchange Online Protection, and Microsoft Defender for Office 365. Yeah, the different plans, what features you have, and what features are available. Then we go down the road of how to follow Microsoft EOP MDO recommendations. Yeah, here one of my favorite tools, and I will provide a quick demo, is the Orca script. Yeah, and lastly, and that's the biggest part of this presentation, is more to share some of the best practices for the EOP MDO settings that we collected over the years. Yeah, and to evaluate or investigate when you should use them or what to consider. Yeah, because that's an important thing, as well as there's a couple of other messaging security features that you might not be aware of that we discuss here as well. So let's jump right into the presentation. So the first slide I want to show you is the overview of the differences between EOP and Microsoft Defender for Office 365. You see on the lower side, yeah, EOP is more to protect your environment. So it's basically provides all the protection features. And MDO, P1 and P2 is more about detection, investigation, and then responding. Yeah, if we talk about EOP basic features, and these features are available, by the way, in every Exchange Online license. Yeah, we talk about spam, phish, malware detection. We talk about bulk mail detection. Yeah, we also talk about spoof intelligence. Yeah, so intelligence from the KI in Azure to understand who's spoofing you or who wants to spoof you in order so you can take action on that. Yeah, it also includes allow block for URLs or files. Yeah, audit log search, of course, messaging trace, and 0-hour auto purge zap. Yeah, that's an interesting feature because it says in the documentation it retroactively removes messages from your Exchange mailbox, and that's the reason it's only available in Exchange Online mailboxes. Yeah, so if you're using Exchange EOP online protection as a standalone implementation, this won't be available. So what's the difference between Microsoft Defender for Office 365 Plan 1 and Plan 2. So the importance here is that Plan 1 is implemented in any business license or E3 license, versus Plan 2 is available in Office 365 Enterprise license or as a separate license addition. So Plan 1 is formerly known ATP, Advanced Threat Protection. So that includes the safe attachments, safe links. Yeah, so you can detect links, yeah, and make sure that safe links is a feature to replace that links in all the emails and deliver the mailbox then to your mailboxes. And if by a later time you, for example, you block that link that was sent through, it will be immediately be blocked by the system, because the safe links feature replaces that links and makes sure that you go through the database, the main MDO database. Yeah. Also, safe attachments here. The attachments are scanned in real time, and even 0.0 second implementations might be available and will be traced down. Yeah. So besides EOP, safe attachments and safe links is really the most powerful features to prevent your environment from any malware, any spoofing messages, any problems. Yeah. And in addition to that, we got safe attachments for SharePoint, OneDrive, and Microsoft Teams. Yeah, as well, of course, the real-time detections. In Plan 2, we get a powerful feature that's called the Threat Explorer. The Threat Explorer is an Explorer view in your MDO admin center that I will, for example, look into more details tomorrow. Yeah, and there's also threat trackers, for example, available. And you get a feature called attack simulation training that you can use to train your users so they don't open any phishing mails. Yeah, and a feature that I really like is advanced hunting. Advanced hunting is something I consider as very rich, because you can do a real-time search through all your emails and through all the email content even, and investigate it for any kind of reason that you might have. As I said, tomorrow I have a session on this that goes into a demo, and I will show you a couple of examples how to use it. So if we combine all the EOP MDO filtering components, you see there's the filtering components that provide edge protection. So that's the inbound, yeah, from the internet protection, like network throttling, yeah, or directory-based edge filtering. Yeah, that's a very long name for a simple feature. Basically, directory-based edge filtering makes sure that any email that is not included in your global address list of Exchange is dropped. Yeah, so any email address that does not exist in your Exchange GAL will not be accepted. Yeah, and other areas like enhanced filtering if you're in a hybrid environment, for example. Yeah, and then we have center intelligence. That's really the background intelligence. So you have like mailbox intelligence, you have cross-domain spoof intelligence, and a lot of areas that are really automatic, what Microsoft calls the magic in the environment. Yeah. So basically those areas we will have a look on later in the best practices. And also domain impersonation, for example, which makes sure that if small characters are changed in your domain name, are detected, and your users will know about it, or will be informed about it. And then there's the content filter. That's the classical EOP, yeah, the anti-spam, antivirus, the antivirus engines, for example, the transport custom rules that you create, yeah, or the attachment type blocking. Yeah, those kind of settings you can have in order to fine-tune your environment according to your needs. Yeah, but also it has safe attachments here, linked content detonation and URL detonation. Those are more like the MDO features. Yeah, but they all belong to the area of content filtering. And after content filtering, the last area is post-delivery protection. Yeah, that's really like the SAP thing that I talked about. Yeah, so that happens after the email has been delivered, and still there can be a reaction. Yeah, as I said, you can using advanced hunting, for example, you even can move around emails in the mailbox after they have been delivered to that mailbox. Or you have end user reporting. End user reporting allows you to have your users report malicious mails direct to Microsoft or to your central department or both, yeah, in order to investigate the issues. Okay, I see. You see that you get a lot of stuff, and this session is really to show you how to follow the recommendations. Yeah. So Microsoft provides 3 areas of recommendations for EOP MDO recommendations. Yeah. So the first one is preset security policies feature. The second one is configuration analyzer. And the third one is a script module that's called Microsoft Defender for Office 365 Recommended Configuration Analyzer, or short ORCA module. Well, that's my favorite one. But let's quickly have a look on the security, the preset security features. So here in the Microsoft Defender Admin Center, what you can do is basically you can define the standard settings. So from the built-in protection, you can say, okay, I want a more standard protection, or I want a strict protection, and Microsoft will apply all settings in accordance to what is shown on the settings page. Yeah, you can even apply them to users or to groups, whatever you prefer. Yeah, so you can have a subset of preset policies, or you can use the strict policies for one group and the standard ones for others. The second way to implement recommendations is the configuration analyzer. Well, here you see on the right-hand side, the configuration analyzer is also part of the MDO Admin Center. Yeah, and it can be found under Threat Policies Configuration Analyzer. And here you basically have 2 tabs, and you can click on the tab and it will tell you which settings they would recommend to change for your environment. And then you can open that setting and click on the setting to apply. Well, the thing here is that I see the configuration analyzer is not that much used because it does not provide the full amount of details for each setting before applying them. And I guess the larger your environments are, the more scared you are of changing those settings, of course. And you see, but it's including a very nice feature that's called the configuration drift analysis and history. So that feature allows you to review the changes to your configuration changes. So basically it will say who changed what MDO setting in the past. Who changed, for example, this anti-phish default enable spoof intelligence from true to false in the past. So you and this configuration drift analysis has 3 months back information. So it can be used, for example, for your audit logging. Yeah. However, as I said, I'm in favor of ORCA script. So let me show you quickly the ORCA script. So it's a PowerShell commandlet that you basically install on your computer, and I pre-configured it so it's quicker. Yeah. So basically it connects to your tenant, and it requires global reader rights. Yeah, and reads, of course, all the settings from your environment, including here the MX record settings for all domains. Yeah, and that might, by the way, take a while, because if you have a lot of MX settings, DNS MX record settings in your tenant, they will reach out to the internet and verify, for example, DKIM and SPF settings in here. So because of this demo, I quickly go over. So, okay. So I wanted to show you quickly the Defender Admin Center. So in the Defender Admin Center, in policies and rules, you have the threat policies. And if you click on threat policies, you get the preset security policies or the configuration analyzer. And as I mentioned, preset security policies will implement security policies in your tenant for everybody, for the group you apply, or standard ones or strict. Or in the configuration analyzer, you get it by setting. Yeah. However, if you want more details, yeah, then of course you should maybe depend on the ORCA script. Why is that the case? Well, if you, for example, if you open this, yeah, you see you can apply, you can view the policy, but then you only see the policy where it is based. Yeah, you don't see basically what's the detail about this policy. And here comes the benefit of the Orca script. So let's see if it still runs. Well, it still runs. So because it runs, I prepared a report. Yeah. So this is a full report that ran just before this meeting in my environment. And you see, you have like informal, you have recommended changes, and you have 20 settings that are okay. And you also get a health index. Oh, now it's finished. Yeah. So now I get the new one. Yeah. You see, it's just changed. Okay. So what do we see here? You see all the settings and the recommendations in that script, and that's the very powerful thing in that script. Yeah. It allows you to go into detail on what settings are current and what settings should be changed. So you basically see exactly what you should do in order to improve your Microsoft recommended settings. Yeah. And underneath each setting is a very nice link, and that really helps a lot because it takes you right next to the setting. Yeah. So you don't need to search a lot around in order to find what exactly is recommended here. Yeah. So that tool is really something that I feel is very nice. Yeah. However, not everything is perfect, of course, and for that reason, let's switch back to the presentation. And here we continue with the best practices for EOP MDO settings and other messaging security features. But first, quick questions. Are there any questions in the chat? If not, I just continue. Yeah.
Nothing at this time.
Okay, perfect. So let's discuss a little bit more what you should do and why you should do, or what you should consider. The first recommendation I have to you all is make sure you understand all requirements and apply them to your own environment. Yeah, not every setting is perfect for your environment, because there are situations in your environment, for example, where it might not be suitable to configure a setting. I provided an example here. Yeah. So for example, DKIM in the Orca script reports back all domains that are registered to your tenant. However, not all of those domains registered to your tenant might be outbound domains for email messaging. Yeah. And you only need DKIM if you send outbound email. Otherwise, you don't need it to be enabled. Yeah. So you might have domains where it's not necessary to enable DKIM. Yeah. And because Microsoft in general recommends to enable it, and Orca script by default notes or provides you with the recommendation to change it, it's always good to create a list of expectations, something like this small table on the lower right. Yeah. That allows you as the head guy or the architect or the main administrator to define what should be set or what should be configured and what shouldn't. Yeah, as I said here, what I normally do is provide a description, of course, what is the setting about, then what's the default Microsoft recommendation. Yeah. Also, what's the current setting in the environment of the customer, and lastly, the recommendation what to do. Yeah. Do I need to, why do I not change that setting and leave it as it is unreported with the Orca script or even with other configuration analyzers? Next
Hey,
one.
Siggy,
Yeah.
There's a question about Orca making recommendations about changes in the default policies. Can those be changed?
Well, the default policy is the standard policy that EOP applies to your system. Yeah. So Orca is more like the recommendation that should be implemented. Yeah. So I use Orca as the basis for my security evaluations. So yes, you can change them, but you should understand the change and what it means to A, your environment, and B, to your users. Okay. Thanks, Jeff. So next thing is whitelisting. Yeah, the interesting thing on any analysis like the Orca script, it's always recommended to prevent whitelisting. Yeah, so they will report any whitelists. So if I quickly go back here, yeah, you see, for example, domain whitelisting with, let me see, click the recommendations. And you see that the whitelisting is always something that you should consider, yeah, especially if you have senders in the whitelist. Yeah. So the thing here with the whitelisting is that any user that knows about that setting in your whitelist can send you a message to your Exchange Online, yeah, and you cannot prevent that from bypassing the EOP scanning. So if I know what email addresses are in the whitelist, then I can spoof messages, and because they are whitelisted in your EOP MDO settings, they will pass the scanner. Yeah, and for that, basically, I recommend that you make sure you understand this implication and that you don't use IP addresses, sender, or domain whitelisting if you can. If you can is always a hard thing, yeah, because many situations, especially when your customers put pressure on you, then I guess whitelisting is the quickest and easiest way to implement. But make sure you know the implications and change it again quickly. Was there a question? No. Okay. So whitelisting per se is, of course, as I said, you can do whitelisting or not. Was there a question? I just heard something. Jeff, Michelle, you let me know.
No questions at this time. We're
I just
working through.
heard something. Excellent. Okay, so what can you do to work around? Yeah, well, one idea, and this is an idea, is basically that you identify the header in accordance to DKIM and SPF failures, and then you say, okay, if the authenticated sender is not fail, so DKIM SPF, let's say is good, is a pass, and the domain is in your whitelist, then put it manually to SCL -1. SCL -1 means it's good mail. It's not it's not spam or anything other. Yeah. So put in a two-step rule. First, identify the failures of SPF and DKIM, and then implement a whitelist based on these features. That's an idea from a customer of mine, which I find quite compelling. Maybe a quick question to Jeff, Michelle, and Jaap. How do you recommend handling the whitelist for your customers?
A basic consulting answer, it depends. If it's a lot of people, sometimes we use table, the tenant allow block list. Other times we use the ETRs, exchange transport rules. If you're talking about some customers have third-party MTAs like Proofpoint and Mimecast, something like that they want to continue to use. Excuse me. And in that case, you want to add them to the IP allow list.
Okay. Jaap, anything to add from your side?
No. Yeah, just like Jeff, it depends. When looking at your solution here with the failure authentication, I would also add a small banner in the email to
that's a good one. Yeah.
to notify the user something is wrong here. Adding tons and tons of email addresses to the whitelist has never been a favorite, and I always recommend not doing that.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. As you see, always consider when doing whitelist, and that's a key recommendation that we've learned from our implementations throughout the years. Cool. Thanks. So let's let's continue. Yeah, there's another recommendation that I found quite interesting is make sure all your domains are in your EOP MDO policies. Why is that? Yeah, in the past, well, when you set up EOP or MDO, then of course you configure your domains. For example, in all your in safe senders, in safe domains, well, in safe links, sorry, in safe links or safe attachments. Yeah. By a policy that applies only to your main domain. So when you later add any kind of domain to your environment, mostly, yeah, and quite often the persons forget to implement them or configure them in the policies. So make sure when you add a domain to your tenant that you also consider the EOP MDO policies, yeah, and add those new domains to your policies. So check your policies or run the Orca script here. Next one is configure SPF with -all. Yeah, I remember when I started with Office 365, SPF was a recommendation, and they had like this tile all. So tile all means it's not rejecting the message; it's more informal. Yeah, the -all says or tells the target server that you should reject any email that is not listed from any server that is not listed in your SPF record. SPF means Sender Policy Framework, and is a framework on the internet to identify spoofing and malware and everything, every kind of sorts of messages. But it also allows you to stay in control with your own email addresses. Yeah, so that's the key here. And don't forget your subdomains. Yeah, Michelle told me that subdomains are a common mistake here. Yeah, Michelle? So, and well, I provide a tool here, SPF query tool, so you can basically have a look and check your SPF records. Secondly, besides SPF, there's DKIM. DKIM basically there's it's called Domain Keys Identifiable Mail. So what it does is it signs your headers of your emails and make sure that those emails are not changed in any way before they reach the target environment. And if they are not changed, then of course the Office 365 will say, okay, DKIM is verified, there's a pass in it, it's all good. Yeah. So my recommendation, because it's included in Office 365, enable DKIM for all your domains in your tenant. Yeah. That, of course, you use for sending emails to the internet. And again, we are back on the discussion. Do you use all your domains to send emails, or are these available, for example, only for Azure apps? So DKIM is implemented in a two-step process. Yeah, first, you need to enable it in Microsoft 365 Defender, and then you need to create the DNS keys in the Internet DNS. Yeah. And once you have these keys, the DNS configuration settings, then you verify them again in Microsoft 365 Defender, and they create your key size. Well, and if you're running an older version on an older tenant of Office 365, make sure you check your DKIM key size. Yeah, the current default is 2048, but it might be it might be different because you run an old server. Yeah. And yeah.
There's a question about rotating keys for DKIM. What's the reason for that?
Well, if you never change a key, the internet recommendation on DKIM keys are to rotate every 6 to 12 months. Yeah. It's not done automatically, so it's a manual process in PowerShell if you want to rotate your keys. Yeah. And it's really for security purposes. Do you agree, Michelle?
Yeah.
What's your
exactly. Yeah, if the keys are ever compromised, you want to have a way to be able to rotate through them quickly without impacting mail flow.
Okay, Marvin, you said it's 1024 bit the default. I tested it just the other day, and it was 2048 for new ones. However, let me look that up. Yeah, or maybe Jaap But have you heard about the default key size? I think that changed.
It might be new tenants, because I tested it a few days ago also, and just creating a new one from the GUI just led to 1024 bits instead of 2048.
Yeah. Okay. So that's about DKIM. However, and now we come into the complete picture. In order to make sure that everybody is respecting your SPF and DKIM settings, you also need to implement a DMARC policy. A DMARC, well, DMARC is namely domain-based message authentication, reporting, and conformance. So it's also a setting in Internet DNS that allows you to control if target servers, target SMTP mail servers should respect your SPF or DKIM settings. For example, I know that Google, if you put a SPF minus all in your SPF setting, that Google will reject it anyway. No matter if you configured DMARC or not. However, if you put DMARC or include DMARC in the complete picture together with your SPF and DKIM, then this also allows to identify, let's say, SMTP gateways that create an SMTP envelope using SPF and DKIM. So for example, we have like MailChimp or we have Amazon SES. Yeah, and they, when you register your application, yeah, you can configure an email domain of your own domain. Yeah, and basically what they, when they send out email, they send out the email and they encapsulate it and put their own SPF and DKIM on top. So when you receive a message like that, it's quite amazing that in your environment, it's not seen by default as bad if you don't have DMARC. Yeah, if you have DMARC configured with reject or current time, at least it says, okay, this is a bad mail because the sender of the header is not equal to the sender of the email. Yeah, and here you see the powerful recommendation here. Yeah, so especially DMARC is important for those kind of settings, and Office 365 will analyze that and make sure that at least in the header this information is available. Yeah. Again, DMARC fails are not rejected in Office 365 by default. Yeah, that's really something that everybody would expect, but it's more like it's the strategy of Office 365. Yeah, EOP, MDO, all messages are basically kept for investigation. They don't reject anything. You need to reject it. So that's the reason you need to create a transport rule if you want to reject those kind of DMARC fails in your environment. And again, don't forget the policy for subdomains. Yeah, especially subdomains. If you don't configure anything like SP equals reject, then it's not configured and they can be used for spoofing. Yeah. And guess what? The earlier begin with this DMARC setting P equals reject, the better, because the more complex your environment will be, it's got to be very hard to find all the application that send emails like in the past. Yeah. And lastly, DMARC reporting is not included in Office 365 by default. Yeah, but you can use tools like Valimail to get the reports analyzed. Yeah, so if you put a DMARC record and configure it for reporting, you, for example, can use Valimail or other tools, of course. Okay, next one. The plan for user impersonation protection. Yeah, first of all, user impersonation protection is based on mailbox intelligence. So if you don't enable mailbox intelligence, you cannot enable impersonation. Well, you cannot use, or it's not that useful to use to enable user impersonation protection. Yeah. So user impersonation protection is basically a collection, or you can put up to 350 users in that user impersonation protection. And what you should do is make sure you understand the implication. Why? Yeah, because user impersonation protection looks for similar or same display names And of course, if users, or especially if you're working in a partner environment where you have partners coming in and out, and your users use, for example, Gmail and Outlook accounts at the same time, they might be blocked if you implement it well, let's say too strong at the beginning. So for that, it's really recommended, in order to implement it, user impersonation protection, enable it for 4 weeks, at least, in a monitoring way, and then add the reported false positive into the trusted impersonation centers and domains. At least then you get around to that. And of course, user impersonation has to understand and learn from your mailboxes. So the more the more time you give it, the more the system will learn about your mailbox users and how they communicate to each other. Okay, next one, spoof intelligence. Well, the spoof intelligence is a thing that I would be careful at the beginning with. So don't turn it on and don't understand what it is about. I put in a tune as needed in. So make sure that this is also something to implement carefully. Monitor first, and don't basically just enable it for everybody. Because spoof intelligence tries to make sure that your spoofing is detected. And of course, if you block emails, especially of partners and third-party vendors, then this causes a lot of confusion. And of course, that ends again when somebody calls you as the email administrator or help desk. You will add naturally the email address to the tenant allow and block list. But then again, it's an issue of whitelists again. Okay. So next one is turn on safety tips. Don't forget to enable those. They are great to inform your users about what's happening. For example, if there's a first contact, whenever the system detects that they get an email the first time from that contact, that's the first contact safety tip. You get an example like on the right-hand side. It says you don't get often email from learn why this is important, and that's pretty good. So the user understands. Oh wow, maybe Megan is known to her or him. And then they, of course, should be taking care about that email. It's also the user, well, you also have the user impersonation safety tip or domain or unusual character safety tip. Those are really the excellent tips, and we strongly recommend to enable them. Next one, that's also some tip that was provided to me last week by a fellow customer. So it's not an MDO setting, it's not an Exchange EOP setting, but you can enable native external sender callouts on email in Outlook. So what does this basically do? You see in Outlook or in Outlook for iOS or Android, for example, that an email came from external. So this is external detection. So your email, your users will really see if the email is from outside your organization or from inside your organization. And guess what? Most of the attacks on the environments came from outside, obviously. And the good thing is it's also localized in your client language. So if you have different languages in your company, it uses the default client setting. Now, as I said, this is not even detected by Orca, but you enabled, you just run set minus external in Outlook with a minus enabled $2. And then it enables automatic after 24 hours, like many of the settings in the Exchange Online part. Okay. So next one, yeah. The next one is especially if you use third-party inbound SMTP gateways, yeah. So remember SMTP gateways, some might change the DKIM or some might, well, you can configure advanced filtering to overcome SPF, but you cannot use advanced filtering to overcome DKIM. So DKIM breaks if you have a mail server in between the internet and your Exchange Online. So in order to overcome this, of course, I highly recommend if you use anything like Proofpoint or whatever, you implement Proofpoint as a trusted ARC sender. So enable this on the third-party SMTP gateway. And of course, you need to add that into your settings for ARC sealing. Yeah. And as I said, this requires an ARC sealing or your SMTP gateway needs to support ARC sealing in order to do this. Yeah. Okay. So to summarize the general best practices, yeah, as I mentioned, we recommend to run the Orca script regularly. You don't need to run it on a weekly or monthly basis, but do it when configuration settings change, for example. Yeah. Secondly, don't just follow the Microsoft recommendations, but consider your environment, which basically means make sure you know why Microsoft recommends something and make sure you know why you did not turn on this setting at the first hand. Yeah. And lastly is DMARC. DMARC becomes more and more important, as I said, especially with the third-party cloud SMTP services. Yeah, in order to control your email addresses and email domains, make sure you implement and reject failures.
Yeah, Siggy, I'd just like
Yeah.
to say these are really good general best practices because Orca is a great way to become familiarized with some settings that you may not have known about. Orca will call those out to you and make recommendations. And that follows into the next one that you mentioned is Orca is going to make recommendations that are not, they're general. They're not appropriate for all environments. So understand them before you implement. And that makes a lot of things that you don't want to make an unexpected change in your environment that affects your mail flow. So don't just take them at face value and implement them.
Correct. Mail flow changes or user information changes are the worst ones, correct?
Right.
If you reject something that has been delivered before, well, that causes a lot of discussions, yeah. And if you put something in place that informs your users, that also creates discussions, yeah. And discussion results normally in service desk tickets, yeah. And that's of course something we try to prevent. Or Jeff?
Yeah. The other thing I want to mention is DMARC. The 3 policies for DMARC are none, quarantine, and reject.
Yeah.
Having a DMARC policy of equals none is better than having no policy at all. It does show that you have DMARC implemented, which a lot of MTAs will signal if you don't have a DMARC policy, it looks at it as a best practice and your emails will go into spam. It's better to have a policy that is set to none if you don't want to implement DMARC at this time, just to show that you're aware of it and you have a policy that's specifically set, and that will increase your or lessen the ability that you will be a spam email that's being sent out.
Correct, Tim. So yeah, but what's your experience on DMARC? Because I remember you taught me DMARC back like 5 years, 6 years ago, and so I have companies that struggle to implement DMARC because they have too many applications that basically send emails, and you first need to get those in line with SPF and DKIM, and then you can implement DMARC or harden DMARC. What's your experience here?
I can do a separate session of an hour only talking about the management of DMARC and implementing DMARC and stuff. It's just like SPF, it can be extremely difficult and a lot of work to get it right in for especially for larger organizations when they have other customers, tools, stuff sending out email messages on behalf of this specific customer. So it can be horrible, and you have to start with a policy of none just to get into the monitoring phase, and you have to figure out who is sending out email on your behalf, and that's a lot of work. It's an extremely amount of work.
Yeah, correct.
I want to just mention, you said here in your second bullet, don't just follow the Microsoft recommendation. I always say use the Microsoft recommendation as a starting point for your organization or your environment.
That's even a better phrase. Yeah, let me change that for the notes of this meeting. Yeah. Okay, I see a question about advanced spam filter and SPF hard fail. Well, advanced spam filter ASF currently, basically my opinion is I have it, but it's retired within Office 365. So I would pass that question to like Michelle, Jaap, or Jeff. What's your opinion about advanced spam filter? Do you recommend to turn it on or leave it off? And that's even the same for SPF hard fail, by the way.
Well, since the setting is being deprecated, I wouldn't invest in it. You never know when it's going to be turned off entirely and not make any. I wouldn't make an investment in configuring that in a current environment.
Well, the SPF hard fail, by the way, that setting is quite. It's also retired, by the way. It's replaced by a setting called comp auf. So I will talk in my session tomorrow about comp auf and about where it compares SPF, DKIM and DMARC fails or pass or non-pass things and calculates here the likelihood of a fail. Yeah. SPF hard fail in the past you turned on or off, and the yes meant basically it goes to the highest SCL level. Which also something some companies did not like because you wanted to, well, hard fail is hard fail. Hard fail normally means you block it or reject it, yeah, and not deliver it as to quarantine.
Yeah, another problem with it is that SPF, DKIM, and DMARC are configured by the sender. You don't have any control of it. So if you have a partner who has misconfigured an SPF setting or a DKIM or a DMARC setting, it's going to fail. It's going to hard fail. It'll either reject or they'll never get the email, and that could cause a business impact. It's one of the reasons why Microsoft is moving away from strict SPF, DKIM, DMARC settings to more of a machine learning. From what they've found that it actually causes more problems from a misconfigured setting from your partner that you have no control over. Right. Yep. All you can do is reach out to that partner and say, hey, your SPF's messed up, fix it. But if there's no one around to fix it, it's a problem. It could affect the business. So that's another reason why it's being moved away from.
I totally agree. Jeff, we talked to Amazon SES about this problem, yeah, and we talked to other mail senders about this problem, YesPress or whoever. Well, but looking at the attacks that's getting closer to everybody, I think it's really important to protect yourself. And that's the starting point. Protect your own domains. Make sure you know what domains or what applications are able to send emails in your domain space. Yeah, and make sure you prevent any application developer that just sends email like in the old way, like I did back in '95 or so. I looked for a port 25 opening somewhere on the internet and sent off the emails, yeah, with Bill Gates at Microsoft.com as email address, and this was joking. Today, it's so serious that you really should protect your domains. Yeah. Excellent. So looking at the time, yeah, I have one more note to say. I have 2 more sessions tomorrow. One is on upgrading to Exchange Server 2019. That's at 7 a.m. Jeff, thanks for being part. I hope you wake up. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, or at 4 p.m. German time. And the second one, as I said, is used advanced messaging tracking to identify junk mail or spoofing. And I go into the Threat Explorer, into the SMTP header, and into advanced hunting, quite a big depth in order to investigate issues with DMARC, DKIM, SPF, or anything other that you learned today. So with that, I come to the end. Oh, I have a couple of useful links for you for later usage. And I want to say thank you, a special thank you to Jeff, Michelle, and Jaap for my SMEs. Yeah. And don't forget to provide feedback on this session. Yeah. And well, as I said, tomorrow, yeah, you know Squeaky. Yeah, Squeaky also will be part of tomorrow's session. So see you tomorrow. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.